Hello, this is Matthew Chan, host of the extortionletterinfo.com website, and I'm here with New York attorney Oscar Michelin, and we are here to provide an update on the Riddick/Image Line situation. To bring everybody up to speed, we have not formally made a recording that I can recall regarding the George Riddick and Image Line situation because we always felt it was sort of a niche topic and it affected a small amount of people. However, recent events, which Oscar is going to get into, has compelled us to actually create a very specific recording in this regard because we do feel that this potentially has some far-reaching impact in the stock photo industry and the copyright infringement issue and so forth. So we hope this recording will be helpful to you. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is turn the phone over to Oscar, who will now discuss the George Riddick Image Line case and the current situation. Hello, Oscar.
Thanks, man. How are you? How you doing?
Oh, it's good to hear from you, as always.
Well, likewise. Thank you for all the great work you're doing on the website. And, we try to stay away from this issue really because of the volatile nature of the other side.
Yeah, it has not been what we consider to be very civil or professional for a while,
It's just it got a little, difficult when Mr. Riddick did not have representation, was kind of doing it on his own. Mm-hmm. It got much calmer and more professional when he was represented.
Yeah.
But what's been happening now, just a very quick one-sentence explanation. George Riddick is the heir of a company called Image Line, which alleges to be the owner of copyright in thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of clip art. And originally he started by going after folks who used clip art to make embroidery patterns. And then he went after people who sold clip art discs at flea markets and things of that nature.
And he went after them with these outrageous emails.
Outrageous emails.
Oh, they're crazy emails.
Letters. It's just too much. And, we
have
a whole section on our forum devoted to it, although you're correct, this is our first tape on it, audio on it. And the reason why is because it's really taken on a whole different level.
Yes. A
couple of key things have happened.
Yes.
First is that early on, Riddick joined up with an association called the SIIA, a software trade association, who kind of funded his litigation against resellers of clip art discs, claiming that they were violating Riddick's copyright. Now, we represented one of those such individuals, and the case was filed in court in California. We got admitted, what they call pro hoc vice or whatever. We got permission to appear there. And the settlement terms had a very low monetary figure, which we recommended that our client pay to just get out of the lawsuit. It would have been cheaper to pay for the lawsuit than it would have been to pay us to fight this case, in California, get local counsel, and do all that, right?
Yes.
So we said, what? I'm not going to mention the number, but that number, is very low. It's worth paying. Who cares who's right? Just get out of Dodge. But SIIA and Riddick added a feature, which is they wanted to use the name of the individual and the company and disseminate literature that said these folks were admitted wrongdoing, they acknowledged Image Line's copyright in the clip art, and they paid Image Line and the SIAA in an infringement lawsuit.
They wanted to make a public example out of them.
Right. Now, most people may not know this, but normally when you settle a case in litigation, the exact opposite is true. It is not an admission of wrongdoing. It is not an admission of the strengths and weaknesses of your case or your adversary's case.
That's right.
And particularly in federal court, the terms themselves of the settlement agreement are confidential.
That's right.
Okay? So
And most of the time when you try to get the information from the parties involved, they're very vague. They don't say they don't win, they didn't say they lose, it's just been settled.
Right.
They're very careful about that.
All you can say is that the case has been amicably resolved.
That's right.
Okay. So, now you have a situation where they wanted the exact opposite of the industry standard. So I said to my client, I disagree with this, and you say, no. He was so frightened of the litigation and wanted it to be done that he said, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. Now, of course, the client has the right to do that.
That's right.
So I said to him, if that's the case, then I just can't be your attorney because we have such a disagreement on this issue.
Really?
Irreconcilable differences.
Really? So you parted ways with the client, huh?
We parted ways.
No kidding.
We returned the balance of our retainer that we still had.
Really?
I did not use in negotiating the settlement. And I said, I just can't put my name on that settlement. I'm sorry.
It's not good for your reputation, I suppose.
No, it has not really reputation because, listen.
You fundamentally disagree with it.
I have lost very public cases.
Yeah.
I've won very public cases. I really it had nothing to do with that because frankly, what disturbed me was I said to them, if you tell the other side how much you originally sued for and how much we ended up paying, I might agree. And they didn't want that. Okay?
Yeah.
So they only wanted half the story out.
Yes.
So I might have been able to have been convinced if the SIAA and Mr. Riddick were willing to put down what they tormented this guy over and the amount they ended up with after a year of hassling this gentleman. So it really had nothing to do with my reputation and just a 100% disagreement with the ethics of it and the professionalism of it. So we backed off. We said, good luck to you, Mr. So-and-so.
So you felt it was unprofessional?
Very unprofessional.
And you felt it was unethical?
It was, I don't want to say unethical, because it's nothing, if both sides agree, it's not.
Well, that's what I was getting at, right. As long as both sides agree.
It was a little bit, it was outside of industry standards. It was beyond the norm. It was uncalled for. And I just really felt that it was extortive, overpressure. Again, it's more pressure being put on people to do things that they don't want to do because you have leverage over them.
This is going to sound strange coming from me, but I thought that's a pretty creative solution. I mean, I guess the guy didn't care about his name. See, a guy like me, you and me, I mean, it just would be tough because we care about our names and reputations. But I guess as your client just didn't care about his name.
Right.
You know, his fear was so high. You know, he says, drag my name through the mud.
Right, but then why not let me tell my side of the story? Why not let me put down what I ended up paying?
Yeah.
Why would that remain confidential?
Well, obviously it didn't work in their favor. I mean, they don't want it to get out.
That's the point. So, in any event, they then began using that flyer to intimidate more people to settle. It became part of their material.
I see.
Then what happened was...
Do you think it worked?
It definitely worked.
How do you know this?
Because of the number of calls and emails that we got related to it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good.
Not nearly as much as the other topics discussed on our site, but certainly was a huge upkick in the image line stuff.
Oh.
And what
especially when that flyer went out, huh?
That's what I'm talking about, when the flyer went out.
Wow.
Now, imagine, for example, had my name been attached to that, that might have been very, very interesting to see where it went. But in any event, there was some kind of falling out between Riddick and the SIAA.
Do you know what it is?
No, we don't know. Although,
there's some speculation.
Emails, we can speculate.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't, though.
Right. And then he got counsel, a very competent attorney who specializes in digital image. I don't want to name her, but she was with a firm, and then she ended up leaving that firm and taking some of the Image Line cases with her. And we still have a couple of open litigation matters with her involving Image Line across the country, two cases. And he started going that route. Okay. They had a falling apart, and they no longer, for whatever reason, they no longer represent Mr. Riddick.
Imagine that. That's two people now.
We've just received information that Mr. Riddick may be disseminating letters to new victims using that old letterhead from that firm that may not be from that firm.
Well, I'll tell your listeners, I got a copy of it. It was forwarded by one of our supporters. So all I can do is I can vouch for the one that I saw myself.
I've seen about 3 right now.
Okay. There you go.
And I've taken it one step further, which I don't even know if you're aware of this, Matthew, but I reached out to the lawyer who's allegedly signed that letter. And that lawyer has all that lawyer has been able to state is that lawyer has no record of ever having represented Image Line or Mr. Riddick with respect to the case that's named in the letter.
Well, allow me to translate that, in which I can't swear that I'm correct, but basically she's diplomatically saying that he has gone off to do his own thing. And I got to tell you, I find that very outrageous.
But
I find that very outrageous.
Could be falsifying documents.
I mean, it's crazy. Trying to impersonate an attorney? Oh, my God.
Right. If that lawyer does not have record of that, chances are that lawyer did not write that letter.
Absolutely.
But, of course, the lawyer's still bound to protect the client. And
absolutely.
The attorney's not going to come right out and say that. All the attorney can say is,
right.
I have no record of it.
Actually, that's right. And since I'm not an attorney, I have no license to lose. I figured I'd just do the translation for our listeners.
Thank you. What's interesting is that Riddick has joined up with another legitimate organization. SIA no longer will take care of him, but there's a company called Image Rights.
Is that right? Image Rights?
Right.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, look them up. They're a legitimate company. And, we have a couple of cases now where they've been sending letters, and we've written them back. And we've now just recently let them know what we found out about these potential, shenanigans. So,
is it imagerights.com? It looks like it.
Imagerights.com or .org? I'm not at a computer.
Well, I'm looking at it. Well, anyway, it's imagerights.com. It might be one possible one, but don't let me interrupt you. Well, it just went on the computer.
So just saying. So we'll keep folks posted how that plays out, because I think once Image Right gets a whiff that there might be some questions about the validity of Mr. Riddick's claims, I think very soon they'll likely, part company as well, in my opinion. Now, what's most interesting is that Mr. Riddick has decided to take on a very large company called Bernina, Bernina.
Oh, that's a juicy case.
It's a juicy case. It's one that some of our more loyal posters on the Riddick forum, I just love to keep updating.
Oh my God, those guys are on it more than I am. And in fact, I'm getting my information from them. I will freely admit that to our listeners.
Absolutely.
They've been doing me a tremendous favor. So
let me tell you, they're doing the public a tremendous favor, because we've been able to take that information and run with it, and used it even on the digital image issues as well. So a brief synopsis. Bernina is a very large company. They manufacture sewing notions and sewing machines, things of that nature. Riddick decides to take them on and says, "You're using my clip arts." Well, a couple of things have happened. First of all, Bernina, which has a much larger asset resource than George Riddick apparently does, is fighting him tooth and nail on it. And it appears that he may not even have valid copyright to the clip art that he claims. And more importantly, at a recent court appearance, the judge said, first of all, you have filed all of these as a compilation. You get no protection for an individual registration. And if you need an explanation of that, you should check out our digital image updates that we just did a little while ago with respect to the Getty Images issue and the digital image issues. But that's a huge statement that we're using in those cases as well to support our position.
Yeah, there's actually a transcript of that discussion, isn't that right?
There's a transcript on the forum. There's also a record of each date's occurrence, what's happening in court every day, and there are documents of the litigation that are involved. The most recent thing is that Riddick has teamed up with a fairly substantial firm, a very reliable, very substantial, well-known firm. So he's gotten some more funding. We don't know from where. And we will keep you posted because they have to correct some of the errors in Mr. Riddick's, I think, papers. There are motions to dismiss, things of that nature. So a very volatile issue. But it looked there for a moment before he even got the lawyer. We thought Mr. Riddick was going to be thrown out of court for lack of even having an attorney for his court.
Well, he came through at the last minute.
Came through at the last minute.
One thing I do want to add as a commentary to this, I think, we were talking about how our supporters are following this very closely. And I think one of the reasons is this case literally is almost happening close to real time. As the case is progressing, the documents get filed and scanned in, it shows up in public records. And so our supporters are scanning the public records for the newer documents. And when they get that new document, they're sending us a copy of it.
Right, what's happening?
And so it's very interesting how this is all unfolding. It's
Absolutely. Well, look, all federal litigation now is all electronically filed.
Mm-hmm.
So these documents are available on PDF to the public.
Well, we're just impressed that these people are getting the information for us. I mean, they're literally serving it to us. It doesn't get any easier than that.
It's been so useful. It's been so helpful to so many people. We get so many emails from people saying, thanks for the information. I got a letter from Image Rights. I got letters from Image Line. Now I know where I stand. And, we just want to certainly thank our followers on the forum who have been providing us with information on Bernina. But we really ask everyone, whether you're onto this site for clip art issues or image issues, to be aware of that case and to follow it very closely, because it could definitely have an impact on copyright law and hopefully rule in our favor on the manner in which these companies register these massive amounts of works of art, whether they're clip arts or pictures or what have you. But so if you've gotten a Riddick letter, please go onto our forum and look at these posts and reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns, or you'd like to get involved one way or the other, or want us to get involved on your behalf. Okay.
Well, Oscar, I've got a couple of burning questions that our audience members may have, if you'll allow me.
Go. Of course.
Let's see. I guess the Bernina, what do you think the motive was for Bernina to take the fight to Riddick? I have my theory. Do we agree?
I don't know. Let me hear it.
Well, I think they were just, quite frankly, they were pissed, and I think they just had enough of Riddick. I mean, and I think the Bernina folks knew about our website. They've seen his track record, and I think they decided to make a stand. But again, I don't know. I mean, obviously, but there's certainly
very possible, Matt. And I also think that I think that if you have the wherewithal to fight when you're accused of doing something that you didn't do.
Yes.
Or someone's making outlandish claims.
Yes.
Because of the nature of the internet now.
Yes.
You need to respond just as strongly so that people can see that response days.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
Someone sued you in Ohio. Who the hell knew?
Yeah.
Right? Who knew?
Right.
And maybe he could make a copy. Maybe he would make it to the papers. And you know what? Then it's done.
Right.
It's in the papers. It's over.
It becomes fish paper in a couple days.
Right. And only the most important issues get cataloged, and people remember them. It was over and done with. Not anymore. Now, once there's that internet post that says you are a defamer, that says you're scandalous, that says that you steal copyright from a clip art owner, anytime people put in Bernina, they're going to find these posts. So Bernina has no choice but to come at it with both barrels, so that when you do that search, you also see their response. And he needs to be, in their opinion, trounced so that their reputation online can remain intact. It's a whole different world now. Your reputation is based upon what people find on a Google search over things that you don't control.
Right.
And, if you look at our site, we're likely to get into this in a different area very soon. But the main reason that I believe Bernina is getting involved is to make sure that there's a fair and balanced presentation of the issue on any search that someone would conduct using whatever search engine, ISP, website that they have. And I really think it's vital to a company's good name and goodwill to make sure that their position is addressed online somewhere when someone attacks them online. Those days are over where you can just say, so what? It's some crazy guy posting on the internet. Hey, it could affect your stock price. It could affect your customer base. It could affect your business operations. You got to fight back strongly now.
Well, I also think, if I remember in the complaint, that I think he was harassing some of Bernina's network of resellers or something like that along those lines.
That's where he crossed the line. Bernina tried to deal with it civilly by saying, hey, we don't know what you're talking about. You have no copyright. I mean, the man is trying to claim copyright over, like, images of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, things that there's no copyright over. And
it seemed like he was doing a shakedown of their stuff, and I think the Bernina folks just didn't like that. They didn't like being shaken down.
He went to their customer base.
Yeah.
And said, are you aware that Bernina is selling you infringing patterns? And they're ignoring our claims. And that's when Bernina said, okay.
Enough is enough.
You crossed the line. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it's a doozy of a case.
Okay, I've read the transcript on the judge's words and the way he's been phrasing it, and in my opinion, I want to get your opinion, but it seems like he's giving every opportunity to Mr. Riddick to do this. I mean, he's almost bending backwards, trying to help the poor guy.
Yeah.
Is that your reading of this?
Definitely, but for a reason. For a reason.
Okay, please clarify.
I have represented companies that have been sued by what they call pro se litigants.
Okay.
Okay, meaning folks who are self-represented.
Yeah.
And they have said to me, oh man, this is great. He doesn't even have a lawyer.
They think it's a slam dunk, right?
Right. I tell them, I hope he goes out and hires the best damn lawyer he can find.
Really?
Because I would much rather litigate against the lawyer than against a self-represented individual.
And why is that?
Thing I want, because then the judge feels obligated to act as their lawyer. The judge will then give them more time to respond.
Yes.
The judge will then more than likely excuse certain errors.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, it's already happened here.
Right. Even though the law says they're not really supposed to. The pro se litigant gets no more rights just by coming in without an attorney. The fact remains that the judge is looking down at the bench, and on the right is a large company with a very well-known, reputable law firm. And on the other side is an old man by himself.
It is a very interesting image, huh?
Right. So he says, I want to give I want to give this guy enough rope to hang himself, so he has no excuses, and he can't go to an appellate court and say that he wasn't given a fair shake because he didn't have a lawyer. So there's a method to the judge's, it's not madness, it's routine procedure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a method to the way he's handling the case, because pro se litigants get a lot more leeway than represented individuals sometimes.
And you've said that to me before, even prior to this discussion, in months past. You would tell me this.
Well, it's a fact. It's a fact. Particularly in federal court, where, you know what, if I miss a conference, they're going to fine me. They're going to maybe even punish my client by deciding the case without me being there. If a pro se litigant misses the court date, they're going to wag their finger at him, and they say, now you make sure you come back here the next time. And, deadlines can get missed. And,
well, I can attest to that. I'm on some lower level courts. I've had it where people just didn't show up, and they just said, hey, I got into a car accident, or they ran behind, or something happened. But, they did show up, and they did reply, and all of a sudden, the ruling went out the door. It's like, well, it's got to be redone again. The person did show up. I was like, what?
Exactly.
I mean, you get to not show up on time? That's unbelievable.
Right. If that person had a lawyer, that lawyer probably wouldn't get that second chance.
Yep.
And you'd have your finality. And also, in front of a judge or in front of a jury, how much can you attack a pro se litigant? It looks like you're beating them up. You're the lawyer. You're the fancy lawyer. I'm a litigator. And the jury starts feeling like they have to be the pro se's lawyer. And that's the worst thing you want. So,
it was interesting. When I read
a worthy adversary anytime.
Right. Well, it's interesting because when I read the transcript, the opposing lawyers never said much. I mean, the judge did a lot of the talking. I mean,
right.
Is that what you noticed as well?
Yes, but that's good lawyering.
The less talk, the better.
As I tell my law students.
Yeah.
When the wind is blowing in your direction, you don't look to change the sails. You just ride the wind.
But did you feel it was going in their direction? The fact that
the judge was saying, you register as a compilation, you cut him off. I don't want to hear anymore, Mr. Riddick. You have to get a lawyer for the corporation, and they knew where was it going. They saw where it was headed. So why antagonize the judge?
Right.
You have to pick your battles, Matthew. You're going to be in litigation before this court. You don't fight for meaningless points.
Right. Yeah, you don't fight just to fight.
Right, especially against the pro se.
Yes.
The judge is going to look at you across the table and say, the guy's not even a lawyer. Would you shut up?
Well.
Okay, I got this. So I think that's what the other side was doing was very good lawyering, because the issues were going in their favor in general. The judge was giving Riddick a little bit of a tongue lashing, didn't he?
Yes.
So,
that was it. It was just a tongue lashing. There didn't seem to be any real consequence that I could see in the transcript.
Right, that's true. He gave him another chance, and he eventually got a lawyer.
Yes. I mean, he gave him every opportunity. Now, interesting, how do you think the Bernina folks, I know this is all speculation, but I think our listeners would be interested in your take on this. On one hand, you're saying that going up against somebody pro se is sometimes not a good thing. Now that Riddick has found representation, how do you think the Bernina folks feel about this?
Again, it depends on the strength of their case. I can tell you that if they feel they have a strong case, they're going to say, okay, good. Now we know we're going to get finality. Because he's going to have a lawyer, and he's going to have his opportunity to take his best shot. He's paying money out of his pocket. It's finally costing him something. It's frustrating. Well,
how do we know he's paying something out?
Well, somebody's paying.
Right.
These guys aren't there for the love of the law.
No, but but Riddick's been able to get SIA to support him, right? Isn't that
right? And he's gotten his mom to support him. He's
right.
gotten loans from his family. I don't know who it is. But my point is, whoever it is burning cash, and they're going to run short, and they're going to.
But they're not doing it from the goodness of their heart to support Riddick. There has to be a reason.
They're getting paid. Like any other lawyer. Here's the problem. Very similar to the issue we talked about with the Bunch case and the digital image photograph case, where a photographer sued and they lost. It could very well be that certain folks who hold compilation registrations in copyright are freaking out that George Riddick was making these arguments essentially on their behalf. And that if he didn't have representation, it could very well be that these issues were going to be decided by a pro se lawyer or on a default. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these trade associations, interest groups, etc., said, we got to look, whether we agree or disagree with this guy, it's not about this guy. It's about this legal issue. Can you register multiple works of art in a compilation, or do you have to individually register them? And if Riddick is our champion on this issue, we are going to hell in a handbasket. So let's get him competent counsel to give us our best shot to win this issue.
And that's what you think is happening right now.
That's what could be. That's one of the things that could be happening. He could have gotten a loan from his family. Any number of things could have happened. All I know is these guys ain't cheap.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has to give some comfort to Bernina, because it's frustrating when you're sitting there burning X dollars per hour, and you look across the table, and the guy ain't costing the guy anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, he has no reason to stop litigating.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, when I read that transcript, I had this little vision, of these attorneys just being quiet, just getting paid by the hour, listening to the judge have a conversation with Riddick and berating him. I mean, they're just sitting there passively listening, waiting for something to do.
It is true. That does happen. That's the nature of litigation. Sometimes you're getting paid by the hour to listen.
Yes.
But at the same time, these are very busy firms.
Yeah.
They'd be on some other matter, and they're not going to keep a client for long if the client feels they're milking them.
Yeah.
And I think it's not just, why am I going to say anything? Because frankly, the more they talk, Matthew, the longer the appearance would go out. So if they really wanted to just milk the case for hours, they would be filibustering.
Yeah.
So,
well, I didn't mean to imply that the attorneys weren't doing their jobs. It's just I guess generally, as a non-attorney, I don't get a chance to read these transcripts that much. And it's just kind of reading this transcript, I just kind of thought it was this, you try to paint a picture of what's going on in the courtroom based on what you're reading, and I'm just envisioning that.
Envision it from the mind of Bernina.
Yes. That's got to make them crazy a little bit.
And they're watching the clock somewhere between $500 and $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
And there it goes. Because George Riddick is ranting and raving. So
exactly.
How frustrating that is for a client.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was getting at. I mean, it wasn't so much about the attorneys, but the Bernina folks are just like, holy cow, this is what's happening.
Believe me, absolutely, it's a nightmare. We represented individuals who were sued by a pro se plaintiff.
Mm-hmm.
This guy took them all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get a federal bar preventing him from filing any further lawsuits, all frivolous against our clients.
Really? Kept him busy all the time.
He had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
He just kept going higher and higher. This guy had sought Supreme Court relief on like 6 other cases. He's a litigious person. He sued. He got a cell phone ticket. He ended up filing a federal court case against the cop who wrote him the ticket, the court officer who was in the part, the judge. I mean, just craziness.
Wow.
So these pro ses can really be very difficult to deal with.
Interesting.
Yep.
Now, as we wind this update up, I did want to, maybe this is an unfair question or maybe too soon to say, How do you see the outcome of this? Do you think there will be any long-lasting ramifications,
There
or will
could
it
be,
reaffirm? Do you think it might reaffirm what you've been discussing all along about the compilations and so forth?
I really feel that when someone does a thorough analysis of the issue, our position will win out. I really do.
So this will be yet another case to reaffirm what you've been describing, explaining to everybody.
That's how I feel. I'm confident that we've got this right, and that we're on the right side of the law.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't know is how judges will rule based upon the influence. The lawyering matters.
You mean Bernina's lawyers?
Everyone's lawyers, yeah.
Well, everybody's lawyers, I guess, yeah.
Everybody's
they don't work in a vacuum.
Right.
Well, Oscar, I want to thank you for your time in discussing the Riddick image line case. I mean, we've, part of me kind of cringes that we even allotted time for this, but given this real-time case, I felt like that our listeners would want to know about it because it's somewhat related depending on how the outcome of this case. Would you agree?
Definitely. Absolutely. And I think that, folks ought to keep coming back to the site, checking the forum for, further information. As we've said on other audios, the forum is the most interactive and the most frequently updated source for information on all of the topics we discussed.
That's correct. And for those of you who want to follow what we were talking about with the Bernina case, we have posted the court documents on our website, and there are links to for you to go download them and read them for yourself. So thank you for listening, and come back and see us on the next update.
All right, great. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the website.
Okay, bye.